that was the Pretenders with My City Was Gone. We're going to stay in sort of a Nick Lowe kind of vibe, because this next band, probably the penultimate bass player of British rock back then. This guy could do no wrong. And as a martial artist, he would kick but more importantly, this guy was a great bass player. Oh my God. Bruce Thomas, Quiver, Sunderland Brothers.
Well, two books you have to, one book you have to read. No, 3 books. I'm going to plug all his books. Actually, maybe 4 books. There's Rough Notes, which talks about his time with Elvis Costello. Then he did The Big Wheel and On the Road Again, which is sort of a fictional account of his time with Elvis Costello. Now, let me tell you, they do have a contentious relationship, and without the attractions, I think we would refer to Elvis Costello in the subtrack. It's really just the attractions without Bruce Thomas. So here I am, a teenage bass player, and I'm reading my Guitar Player magazine, because we didn't have bass player back in those days. And there's an article about Bruce Thomas. They love Bruce Thomas. And so important was he to Elvis Costello's music that they said, try playing an Elvis Costello song without playing Bruce Thomas's bass line and see what the song sounds. So I did that in my Long Island bedroom. And son of a gun, there was just something missing from that Elvis Costello song. Everything Bruce Thomas did with Elvis is just a masterpiece. One of the top bass players, I think, in the history of rock. Bass Center has given him a tribute bass. Sadly, I was supposed to interview Bruce in London last November. He had the flu. His weapon of choice, of course, was Fender P, but also he did a lot of work on a Dan Electro bass. He also used a wall bass in later years. After he left the Attractions, he did a lot of pinch hitting for bands in LA. But where do you begin? I mean, this one track, Chelsea, when Bruce was asked by Paul McCartney to be on that Rochester theme, where Paul had, Pete Townsend, John Paul Jones, John Bonham, everyone. Paul greeted Bruce Thomas by playing the bass line to the track we're going to play.
Which is
there a bigger tribute than that?
No, there really isn't. But there are so many incredible Bruce Thomas tracks. I was just in the car yesterday, and what's so funny about Peace, Love, and Understand?
Monsters.
Monster track. Then, of course, you have Pump It Up.
Pump It Up, Lip Service, Lipstick
Radio,
Radio, all the tracks on Imperial Bedroom where he's doing chords and counter melodies. An amazing player. And again, Elvis was very envious of the fact that Bruce got all the attention. I remember seeing the Attractions when they first came to America in 1977 at CW Post, and Elvis Costello really wasn't known back then. And everybody came away talking about the bass player now. How many concerts?
Exactly. Well, I saw them at that same time when they were at the bottom line again. And what was interesting is back then, none of us knew that they didn't play on that first record.
The first record, right, was Clover, right? John Ciambatti was the bass player.
Exactly. They were part of Huey Lewis's.
Huey Lewis's backup now, right?
Yeah.
Starting with this year's model, incredible run that they had.
Yeah, just great stuff. So let's listen to I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea.
Photographs and fancy tricks to get your kicks at 66. It thinks of all the lips that are licked and all the girls that it's going to pitch. She gave a little flirt, gave herself a little cuddle, but there's no place here for the miniskirt waddle. Got me through punishment. She is last year's model. They're calling Natasha when she looks like Elsie. I don't want to go to Chelsea. Oh no, it does not move me, even though I sing the movie. I don't want to check your pulse. I don't want nobody else. I don't want to go to Chelsea. Everybody's got new orders. Be a nice girl and kiss the waters. Now the teacher is away. All the kids begin to play. Here comes Queen and dressed in white for shake you very gently by the throat. One snip dust, one snip out the. I don't want to go to Chelsea. Oh no, it does not move me. Even though I seen the movie, I don't want to check your pulse. I don't want nobody else. I don't want to go to Chelsea. Photographs and fancy tricks to get your kicks at 66. And thinks of all the lips that are lips and all the girls that isn't going to fix. She gave a little flirt, gave us up my little cuddle. That there's no place here, bottom and a good waddle. Dabbles her punishment, she's last year's model. They call her the Dasher when she looks like Elsa. I don't want to go to Chelsea. Oh no, it does not move me. Even though I seen the movie, I don't want to check your pulse. I don't want nobody else. I don't want to go to Chelsea.
So that was I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea with Elvis Costello and the great Bruce Thomas. While we were on the subject of Nick Lowe, let's talk about Nick Lowe. I love the sound of breaking glass, which I did not know until you told me last week that he did not play bass on that.
He did not play. Now, David, there's an old saying I like to refer to: great songs make for great bass lines. And Nick Lowe, one of the great rock composers. And he calls in Andrew Bodner to play bass on this. Andrew, an incredible player, another guy who pinch hit, I think, on a few Clash records and Pretenders records, or Ghosted, we should say. Andrew Bodner, you know from all his years with Graham Parker and The Rumor, but he did do records where he was credited with Garland Jeffries. He was a jazz bass player. He is a jazz. And just a great feel, just great tone. One of the early adopters of the Music Man bass, which I think maybe he uses that on this track. But fabulous track, those tenths, those double stops. We love this track.
Yeah, it's a great tune. And it was such a breath of fresh air when that album came out.
Because it was songcraft. It was perfect songcraft.
Yeah, and you remember Nick when he was in Brinsley Schwartz. He was also with Dave Edmunds, and then he comes out with this, which is just beautiful songs. Actually, my favorite song on the record is Marie. What was that one? Where she was a silent film star out in California.
I can't think of it. Yeah, I don't know.
And the dog ate her after she passed. Doesn't matter. What was the line? It doesn't matter much to me. Poor Marie. I mean, come on.
Marie Provo, right?
That's it. Marie Provo.
Okay. Well, what's interesting, again, we talk about our provincial American culture. We could, the British album was Jesus of Cool, which we couldn't possibly say that in America. So here it was pure pop for now people or something like that.
Yeah. Which was a classic title.
Which a better name.
In any event, it really was. So let's listen to I Love the Sound of Breaking Glass.
I love the sound of breaking glass, especially when I'm lonely. I love the sound of this condition, when there's nothing new. Oh, nothing new. Sound of breaking glass. The sound of breaking glass, deep into the night. I love the work only it can do, flying all around. Nothing new, sound of breaking glass. Sound of breaking glass. Deep into the night, I love the sound of this condition. How it changed your mind. Oh, it changed your mind. Sound of breaking glass. Save at last, sound of breaking glass. All around, sound of breaking glass. Nothing new, sound of breaking glass. Breaking glass, 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 sound of breaking glass.
All right, so that was Nick Lowe. I love the sound of breaking glass. And I guess he did. Now everyone's probably going to go, oh, you didn't do Addicted to Love. Oh, you didn't do the song that became the Coke commercial, right? Right, because we're doing Discipline of Love by Robert Palmer. And Tom, will you tell us why?
Oh, the amazing Guy Pratt. If you were alive in the 80s, you heard Guy Pratt with Madonna, Icehouse, David Gilmour, post Roger Waters, Pink Floyd. You heard him with Coverdale and Page. You heard him with Brian Ferry, Kirsty MacColl, Jimmy Nail, The Orb, Michael Hutchence, Michael Jackson, who had a few hits. He was one of the go-to bass players in the 1980s. And actually, he did a lot of the work that Tony Levin and Pino Palladino were too busy for. And he used, of course, his octave pedal. That was his claim to fame. That's him with Madonna on Like a Prayer, that great octave pedal. You're going to hear octave pedal on this Robert Palmer song. He has a fabulous book called My Bass and Other Animals. He also does a podcast, Rock on Tours. And he was the young kid with the riffs. That's why Robert Palmer stole him from Brian Ferry, and Brian Ferry got him back. But do read that book. And again, this is an incredible bass part.
Excellent, excellent. And you're bringing up another important point. So many of these players have books out, and reading is fundamental, and it really is a very helpful thing. Take Bill Wyman's book. That's a fascinating story of the Rolling Stones. And what's even more fascinating, with all the craziness, he documented everything.
He did, yeah. Well,
he may be the first fretless bass player on record in rock and roll.
I think, well, he does get credit for that because, as we discussed last time, he was a disciple of Willie Dixon, and he wanted that little frame of his bass to sound like an upright. So, hey, I'll just pull out the frets.
Yeah.
And that was right. And that was the bass he used on actually most of the Stone stuff. And again, another guy, well, I mean, he is the history of the instrument, but he brought the language of Willie Dixon to the electric bass.
Absolutely. And, to digress even just a tiny bit further, you really have to go back to the very first 2 or 3 Stones records, because there's it may be sloppy, which really is a part of what the blues in the early days was, but Charlie and Bill are such a fabulous rhythm section. They're unique. They're completely locked in. Really, there are some great, and in the first record, there's no original tunes. So you get a chance to really look at what their passion was. On the second album, 12 by 5, they're starting to do a little bit of writing. As a matter of fact, my high school band did Empty Heart pretty well because it was the same chord changes to Gloria and a million other songs. And then, of course, you have the Rolling Stones now with one of the penultimate. I believe if Bo Diddley was alive today, he would say that their version of Mona
Yes.
has probably been the best replica.
Well, those guys swung because they grew up listening to big band music. And what I loved about Watts and Wyman is on the up-tempo songs, they always played halftime. They didn't, they didn't just speed stuff up. They just played a groove in halftime. Look at their latter days hits like Respectable and things like that. They just laid in a halftime pocket and let Ronnie and Keith, play forward to the bar. And those guys would just do halftime. And that's what gave them their unique sound, their unique swing.
Yeah. Well, another digression. We're talking about Stones. We might as well talk about the Beatles. Yesterday, Tal Bachman and Randy Bachman did a show on Sirius, the Beatles channel.
Okay.
Did you realize that I Dig a Pony, that the bridge is 6 bars?
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, it's a tough riff to master.
Oh my God. And the song is so light and easy. Who's going to count how many bars are in a bridge? But what a twisted thing,
Right. And we're all looking forward to the real Let It Be or Get Back coming out, right?
Oh, I'll tell you well, you saw my diatribe on Facebook, right? I think we are going to learn something very, very important about the Beatles.
Yeah.
And I think we're also going to reevaluate a lot of their music. When I feel this way about Led Zeppelin, I've listened to those records so much, it's painful to listen now just because I don't need the recordings.
Right.
I can play all the parts in my head. And I feel the same way about the Beatles. However, seeing Get Back and that 5-minute and 56-second trailer that Peter Jackson just put out, that song swings. And the key thing, towards the end, they're playing it and Paul goes, "It's too slow." And they just bump it up a little bit and then went, "Oh my God, that's the record."
Amazing. And the beautiful part is I think Jackson said there's something like 50 hours. So even though this film will be 90 minutes, there's still 48 more hours to go.
Yeah, there's 56 hours.
Something like that, yeah.
Oh my God. Well, listen, good stuff. And I'm sure we'll have plenty of time. The problem with Micah is because radio does not allow us to do more than 3 songs, we could do 3 Beatle tracks, 3 McCartney tracks, and that would be it.
That would be it, yes.
So the idea would probably be to do a Stones and a Beatles thing.
And we could.
Then we'll have 3, 6, 9, and then we can do some of Bill Wyman's rhythm and blues band.
Right. The Rhythm Kings, yes.
Because no one would call Bill Wyman to do sessions.
Not really.
Which is kind of weird and when you think about it.
Did you see The Quiet One? The documentary? Oh, you must watch that. Do you have the Amazon Prime by any chance?
Yes, I do.
All right, so that's your homework assignment. There's a really poignant part where he breaks down and cries when because he regrets not doing a Ray Charles session. And he says Ray Charles liked the Stones. Ray Charles invited Bill to play on one of his records, and Bill turned it down and says, "No, I'm not good enough. I can't play with Ray Charles." But I don't think, Ray Charles would have played Giant Steps. They would have done, they would have done a rhythm and blues.
Exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
All right, folks, it's time to get back. Robert Palmer, The Discipline of Love.
This is when music videos were sexy, David. Remember, they used to have models and throw TV sets out the window and champagne. And
Yep.
Right.
Well, that's because, you had that wonderful hotel out in Seattle, the Edgewater Inn.
Yeah.
Which was renowned for many things going out windows. As a matter of fact, there's a story about a fish. I don't know if you know that story.
No fish story. No big fish story.
Yeah.
But Robert Palmer was quite an artist. I mean, you look at the bass players, you talk Guy Pratt and things, and he used, George Porter on all those early records.
Oh, yeah. Sneaking Sally Through the Alley, all that great stuff. Oh, speaking of Porter and Sneaking Sally.
And Pierre Brock, who was quite good.
Oh, my God. He was fabulous.
Yes.
Do you remember F Troop?
Of course. Corporal Agarn was my hero.
All right.
The Hekawi Indians.
Yeah, which were really...
the Hekawi. Where the Hekawi.
That's basically where the Borscht thing came from.
I love that.
However, there was an episode where a group called the Bedbugs were playing the F Troop dance. Lowell George was the guitar player.
Really? Oh, I have to look that
up. Great stuff.
All right. You want to do Sade? That was Paul Denman on bass, was the bass player with Sade. Just a great groove tune. I think what was nice about Sade is she brought sort of like a pop jazz thing to 80s music. They had so many hits. Sade was actually the band name, not just the singer's name. So it's kind of like...
Now, why is it not Sadie?
I have good question.
Or Sade?
Sade. I don't know. Sade sounds a lot better.
Do we now have to call me David?
Really?
All right, folks. So, Sade, Feel the Pain. Tell me about this, Tom.
Just a great pocket. Again, another, the bass is in the forefront. I think Paul Denman really did anything outside of Sade. Not that you'd have to, with all their massive hits. He was a Music Man Stingray guy. So when you hear that bright tone and just a beautiful pocket. And I think, did they do this one at Live Aid, or maybe that was a little bit earlier?
No, it was earlier. Yeah.
Okay. Great band, great groove.
So let's listen to Feel the Pain by Sade or Sadie or
Sadie,
depending on how you pronounce it.
Listen to the blues. There's nothing sacred within hatred. Oh, yeah. We have to face it. No one can take it and feel no pain. Mama been laid off, Papa been laid off, my brother's been laid off for more than 2 years now. Who can't get a job?
You know, you're talking about Music Man basses. So
Yes.
I think we need to go directly to Paul Young and do not pass go, because octave pedals, fretless, Music Man, only one guy, Pino and the Paladinos.
Pino and the Paladino, he was ubiquitous in the 1980s. He's one of the top session players, but also a guy who was allowed to bring his personality to the session. So you know exactly who it is that's playing. And you know what's interesting? Pino may cut his bones with the fretless bass, but now he just plays a Fender P. He plays a fretted bass. He doesn't really do fretless anymore.
Well, I think John Mayer has a lot to do with that.
Is that right? Yeah.
So
Okay.
the thing that Steve Jordan and Mayer do, which is a credible outfit. There's nothing wrong with that band.
Yeah, but
two things have always plagued me about Pino. One, that guy definitely reads music. I'm sorry.
You think so? Okay, because I've heard otherwise. I've never met the guy. I've never shut him down. But he
studied with a great educator in.
Did he really? Yeah.
Joe Hubbard.
Okay.
A brilliant bass teacher. Brilliant bass teacher. There is no way. No way. And two, one of the records that he never gets the credit for, and he's all over it, is the very first Go West record.
Okay. All right.
That fretless with the octave pedal is all over that. And it's interesting. Yes, we're going to go with the Hall & Oates tune, Every Time You Go Away, which at this time of the year, I always retitle Every Time You Go Oy Vey. It is the holiday season, right?
Right, but the Paul Young version really is just amazing of this tune, and you know that this is pretty much defines everything Pino did. I mean, you talk about, I mean, you know, again, he went to fretless with D'Angelo, but all the fretless stuff he did, Go West, Don Henley, End of the Innocents, right? All those great, you know, Mark Knopfler, Elton John, I mean, Julia Fordham, he's done Clapton, we talked about him last time. Of course, Brian Ferry, David Crosby, I mean, it's just Phil Collins, it's just off the hook.
Yeah, you think about Sunset Grill, maybe one of the greatest fretless parts, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And once again, Don Henley, who, you know, those two records, the one with The Boys of Summer and End of Innocence, those are two of the most, you know, they'd be desert islandists for me. I think a brilliant writer, a brilliant singer, and he had the foresight, either he did or Cooch, to get Pino. And what a brilliant thing. And here again, we're stuck, like as with Tony Levin. Where do you go? What's the one song to pick? But I think you're right. I think this is the penultimate song. And, you know, as you're saying, versus the Hall & Oates version, when you listen to this in the Hall & Oates version back to back, you go, yeah, something's missing from that Hall & Oates version. And what it is Pino.
You know what I also enjoy about this track is that the producers, and you got to, you know, they make the records. We all know that. They let the bass players stretch out. And that's something I noticed also with Guy Pratt, and he talks about it in his book, is that they just let him go off. You know, and how many times, David, have, you know, you've been told you're playing too much, you're overplaying. I mean, that was the 80s. But they just let Pino just have his way, you know, and just go all over the track. And
well, I think also they picked him to do that.
Yeah.
You know, when you and I were in Studio Works, they weren't picking us to be Tom and Dave. They were picking us to be whatever the chart required.
Right.
It's not that I played too many notes. I just didn't stop playing. That's how I put it. All right, folks. Every Time You Go Away, Paul Young with the imitable, and I said that really well for the first time. Paul Young, the imitable Pino Palladino.
so many tears. Oh, so you go again when the leading man appears. Always the same thing. Can't you see we've got everything going on, on, on? Every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Go on and go free. Yeah. Maybe you're too close to see. I can feel your body move. Doesn't mean that much to me. I can't go on singing the same thing. 'Cause can't you see we got everything, baby, even though you know. Every time you go away, yeah, you take a piece of me with you. Oh, every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Can't go on saying the same thing. 'Cause baby, can't you see we got everything going on, on, on? Every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me. Every time you go away, don't think that I don't care. I'll do it every way. Every time you go away, don't leave me all alone. I'm picking up the pieces, picking up the pieces. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you.
I think this is the perfect song to end with. Rat Trap by the Boomtown Rats. I mean, here's a band that wanted to be Bruce Springsteen. Here's a band that wanted to be Graham Parker. Here's a band who were lumped in with punks. They were never punks. They couldn't be punks. When I met them, they were the nicest bunch of guys. I loved hanging out with them. I saw their show at the Palladium. And and who would have thought Live Aid would basically come out of the Boomtown Rats?
Right. Sir Bob Geldof. Well, his bass player for, I think, pretty much their whole career, and they just put out a new record, I think, last year, is Pete Burkett. Burkett is not his name. That is actually a name of, I think, either a fertilizer or compost. I think he took the name Pete Burkett as a joke, and it stuck. And again, another British ensemble that had an R&B groove to them.
Oh yeah. They were, like I said, they wanted to be Springsteen in the E Street Band.
Right.
But this first record was a great record. It was energetic. It was new. It was unconstituted. They really put everything into it. And, outside of I Don't Like Mondays, this was a fairly happy record.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
So now we're going to go with Pete Briquette. Now, what's interesting is obviously Pete was being spelled P-E-A-T, correct?
Was it? I don't know.
Well, no. What I'm saying is he took the name Pete Briquette, but if
as from Pete Moss.
It would have to be Pete Moss, yeah. Which would be another great name for a bass player.
I will do that. My next credit, if I get one, I will be Pete Moss.
Yeah, we'll fertilize our show with great band names and great names of people that never existed.
Right. I usually use Etwas Langsam as my one, and then you could be Ben Ritmiko. Okay?
Well, no. What I used to do is I used to put a period after my G.
So you would be
David G. Ross. All right. Okay, folks. The Boomtown Rats, Rat Trap.
Going on that night, cruising time for the young bright lights. Just down past the gas house by the meat factory door, the Five Lamb Boys were coming on strong. The Saturday night city beat had already started, and the pulse of the corner boy just sprang into action. And young Billy watched it under the yellow street light and said, "Tonight,
of all nights, it's gonna be a blight.
living here in this town," he said. "Traps have been sprung long before he was born," he said. "Hope as the dust behind all the closed doors, and pus and grime ooze from its scab-bursting swords. The screaming and crying in the high-rise block, it's a rat trap, get it, but you're already caught. Hey, you can make it if you wanna, or you need it bad enough. You're young and good-looking, and you're acting kinda tough anyway. It's Saturday night, time to see what's going down. Put on the right suit, head for the right side of town. It's only 8 o'clock, but you're already bored. You don't know what it is, but there's gotta be more. You better find a way out. Hey, kick down that door. It's a rat trap, and you've been caught. In this town, Billy says everybody's trying to tell you what to do. In this town, Billy says everybody says you gotta follow rule. You walk up to the traffic lights, you switch and you let you right. You push in that button and that button goes that light. It's walk to walk, walk to walk, talk to talk, talk to talk, walk to walk, walk to walk, talk to talk, talk to talk. Hey, Billy, take a walk, take a walk, take a walk. Billy, take a walk, take a walk, take a walk. Billy, take a walk, take a walk, take a walk. Hey, Billy, take a walk with me. Dance you on that misery. Swing high, swing free. Little Judy's trying to watch Top of the Pop, but Mom and Dad are fighting, don't they ever stop? She takes off her coat and walks down to the street. It's cold on the road, but it's got that home beat. Deep down in her pocket, she finds 50 feet. Hands down, wait for a young girl to be. I'm gonna get out of school, work in some factory. Work all the hours God gave me. Get myself a little easy move on and her mind's made up. She walks down the road, her hands in her pocket, cool foot against the cold. She finally finds Billy down at the Italian cafe. When he's drunk, it's hard to understand why Billy stands, but then he mumbles in his coffee and he suddenly roars, "It's a red trap, Judy!" And we've been
So we have a little time left. I want to play a tune by a group called Japan with one of my favorite fretless bass players, a guy by the name of Mick Karn, who incidentally plays the hell out of a bass clarinet as well. This is a song, actually it's the title track from their album, Gentlemen Take Polaroids. So here's Mick Karn and Japan.
There's a girl about town I'd like to know. I'd like to slip away with you. And if you said you loved me, how could I mind? Is there another side to everything you do? Taking the country, you'll never win. Gentlemen, take Polaroids. They fall in love. They fall in love. Gentlemen, taking the country. Ah, you never win, gentlemen. Take over the rights. They fall in love. They fall in love, gentlemen. Take over the rights. They fall in love. They fall in love.
And lastly, I want to sneak in a Duran Duran tune called Notorious with the great bass playing of John Taylor. So here we go with Notorious.
Burn the skin from your eyes.
All right, folks, here's the truth. We've come to the end of our show, but I'm going to tell you, we have too many great bass players. Obviously, folks, we've got a lot more British bass players, and we'll throw some Americans in. Why not? We don't want to be prejudiced against our own kind.
Tony Levin, we have Sarah Lee. We have a lot of great.
Sarah Lee from the League of Gentlemen.
Right. And did who else did she do? Was she with Tears for Fears? I think she did a couple of.
No, she was with.
I'm thinking Gail Ann Dorsey. Another.
No, but you're right. A Gang of Four. Sarah Lee, Gang of Four.
All right.
So, folks, we got a lot of stuff ahead of us, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful new year. We'll be back on the 4th. As a matter of fact, the 4th, I will tell you a little bit about the 4th. We are going to do a special show on Slim and Slam and Slim and Bam because January 3rd is Slim Gaillard's birthday. And we're going to rock and roll. We're going to look at not only Slim's music with Slim and Slam and Slim and Bam, but we're also going to look at all the folks that he influenced, from Chuck Berry to Louis Jordan to, a ton of great folks. So stay tuned for that. That'll be January 4th, the day after Slim's birthday. And have a wonderful, wonderful new year and a good New Year's Eve. And Tom, as always, Tom Semioli from Know Your Bass Player, another great show as always.
All right, bottoms up, everyone.
And I want to thank you for being on board. And folks, again, we thank you for listening. Have a great, great new year. Bye now.